folks, it's me, Michaela, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I am home for the holidays version of myself. If you've been around for a year, you may recall this couch from last year when I was also sitting on it. But today, I'm doing a fun end of the year video. We are doing my 23 books in 2023 review. We're going to be talking about my 24 books in 2024, and we're going to be talking about my 2024 reading goals. So it's like a big hoopla. You know, like a 3-for-1 deal going on in this video for you. So you're welcome. There you go. So to begin with, I guess I should review my atrocious attempt at 23 books in 2023. I did not read all 23 of them. I think we know that. I did a check-in at like halfway through the year. I think it was like in June or July or something. I'll like link it somewhere for you. But at that point, I had read not that many books, and I did read a few more, but I definitely didn't read them all. And I did take some lessons from the list I made in 2023 for 23 books in 2023 and change some things in my 24 books in 2024 list to hopefully be a bit more successful in the upcoming year. Stay tuned for that one because, you know, that might be a lie. But I have, for my 23 in 2023, I had Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, which I read, The Hawthorne Legacy and the Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which I read both of those. I did read The Alloy of Law by Sanderson. I got that a couple of months ago and read it, and then I also actually bought Shadows of Self and I read that. Did not get to the Bands of Mourning or The Lost Metal, which I put the whole series on this list, and I think that was a mistake. I'm not putting full series on the list anymore. I will only be putting one. That's the biggest lesson that I learned. But I did read the complete Poppy War trilogy, which I put on my 2023 list. The Poppy War, The Dragon Republic, and The Burning God by R F Kuang, all read in the year 2023. I didn't get to any of the Greenbone saga. I had put all three by Fonda Lee, Jade City, Jade War, and Jade Legacy on here. Did not go well. Did not pick it up. But that's because I was wanting to buy it, but there was that whole thing that I was going through where I like wanted it in hardback, but then like I think the hardbacks are like out of print, so I like can't find it. So then I was like, do I really get the paperback? But then I was like debating whether or not to do it. And then I didn't want to start a new fantasy series because I was like trying to catch up on my currently reading series list. So then like it's just like it didn't happen. Did not happen. But that's okay. We're forgiving ourselves at the end of this year, going into the new year. I also didn't get to Babel by R F Kuang. I had originally thought that I might be going out to my sister's place in October for like Thanksgiving, because I'm in Canada and Canadian Thanksgiving is in October. And she has Babel. And I was like, ooh, when I go out for Thanksgiving, I can steal her copy of Babel and read it. But then that didn't end up working out. So then I just didn't read Babel because I was like, well, when I read Babel, I will just borrow my sister's copy at some point because I will go visit her. The timing has just not worked out well. Also, I have a lot of sisters, so I ended up visiting another sister at the end of October. So that didn't get read, but that's okay. Things happen. I did read The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Ended up loving it so much. I also read The Man Who Died Twice. And then I am continuing on in that series. I have 2 books to catch up on, but that is another story for another day. I had The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Adams, which I read. This was kind of like my initial dive into the do I want to read romance kind of thing last year, and I did like that. I have been continuing on in that series. I am kind of stuck in that series now because I was reading it digitally through Libby, like through my library, but then like my library's copy of Isn't It Bromantic is like I guess expired or something, so like the library doesn't have it, but like I need them to have it so I can read it. And like they still don't have it. That's kind of a little pickle that I need to get out of. I'll find a way eventually. I had Circe by Madeline Miller on this list, which I did read. I know I'm kind of like speed running this because like I made a check-in video back, like I said, in like midway through the year, and not much has changed since then, so I don't want to bore you. You can watch the other video if you want more details. But I read Circe by Madeline Miller, really loved it more than The Song of Achilles actually. But I think that might be because at the time I read The Song of Achilles, I did not have as much familiarity with Greek mythology as I did by the time I read Circe. And is my knowledge of Greek mythology mainly from reading Percy Jackson, like Rick Riordan books? Yes, but it has made me very familiar with Greek mythology. So like, it worked. I also had The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo on my 23 books in 2023 list, and I did read that and I loved it. And now I want to read more Taylor Jenkins Reid books to find out if I'm a Taylor Jenkins Reid girly. We'll be finding that out in the new year. Stay tuned for part 2 of this video, which is like literally going to be in 2 minutes, but whatever. I also put Notes on an Execution by Danya Kufkafka on my list, and I did not get around to reading that. I did not read that book. Every time I think about this list, I forget I put this book on here. And like, I know like everybody I've heard talk about it says that it's good. I think I've only heard like one person not like this book, and I'm like, wow, I should read that book. Sounds like a good book. Kind of outside my comfort zone. No, like that'll be good for me to read. Forget that I want to read it. Does not read it. So that's kind of a problem. Should probably figure that one out. But I did read one of the 4 classics that I put on this list. At the end of my 23 books in 2023 list, I put some classic books. I put Dracula by Bram Stoker, Emma by Jane Austen, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. And the only one that I read was Dracula. I did a reading vlog for it at the end of October where I read Dracula, and I actually really liked it. I liked it more than I was expecting to like it. And I also definitely think it'll be something that I like reread in the future. But I did not get to my other classics. So in total, I read 13 of my 23 books on the list. Obviously, I was originally aiming to read all of them, but once I did my check-in at the mid-year point, I was like, I'd be happy if I read 12 because that's over half. So 13 is actually not too bad. That's better than I was expecting. So like, pat on the back me. I am going to be like carrying these books into next year, the books I haven't read. I'm like kind of thinking that I might do like a reading vlog where it's like reading my 23 books in 2023 that I didn't read in 2023, but like not that title because that is so long-winded, but like you get the point. Like it's like, oh, I'm planning on carrying these books over into some not high priority, I don't want to call them high priority, I'll say mid priority reads in the new year. Will be The Bands of Mourning and the Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson, The Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee, Babel by R F Kuang, Notes on an Execution by Danya Kufkafka, Emma and Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, and The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. We will be attempting to read those in 2024 now because I did not read them in 2023. Now, I guess to switch it up, maybe I will talk about my 2024 reading goals and then we can go into the 24 books I want to read in 2024. That could be fun. Let's do that way. Why not? Switch it up. Woo woo. So in 2024, I've decided my biggest thing I want to do is read more new releases. For me, I'm going to call that books both published in like 2023 and 2024 because right now I'm reading a lot of backlist when I kind of like really just got into reading and I was seeing a lot, you know, discovering booktube and all of that a few years back. I ended up reading a lot of backlist because a lot of the books that were like super popular at the time were some like really well-known older books. There were some that were like later books in series. Oh, hello, Benjamin. And at that point, obviously, if it was like a later book in a series, I'd have to start the series. So then I was just reading backlist. And I want to read more new releases. I want to be more in the know on what's being released now, what's being exciting and brand new in fiction now. So in 2024, I really want to try and read more new releases or recent releases, and that's kind of why I've been doing my like finishing series reading vlog, because I want to try and finish a lot of backlist series right now so that I can kind of start next year reading new things without feeling like, oh man, I'm just putting a lot of other books on the back burner, because I don't really want to do that. It gives me anxiety to have too many currently reading series. I also, goal number 2 in 2024, I also want to read more nonfiction. I really don't read any nonfiction right now, so I want to start reading some nonfiction. I'm kind of thinking that maybe reading some like memoirs might be a good starting point for me because they're still very like storytelling instead of like fact driven. But the problem is that I don't really care about too many celebrities enough to want to read their memoirs. So I wouldn't really want to read celebrity memoirs. So if you have any memoir suggestions, or if you have just other like nonfiction suggestions that you really loved that you think would be like good starting points for nonfiction for somebody who does not read nonfiction, I would love some suggestions because I really am like blind here with knowledge on nonfiction, on what I would like, what would be for me, what I would want to read. So let me know what you loved. I also, of course, as many people may know by now, 2024, I will be entering my romance era. I will be reading more romance in 2024. I will be figuring out what romance I like, what romance I don't like, to get a better idea on like exactly my style of romance books. In 2023, I started reading romance, read more romance as the year got to a close, and by the end of the year I've been reading a lot of romance, and I've really been in the mood to read romance. I don't know if maybe the world is just so sad that I only want to read really happy romance books, but I'm not thinking too much into that. All I know is that that's what I've been in the mood for recently. So in 2024, I'm fully entering my romance reading era. I still will be reading fantasy. I will still be reading mystery books. Do not worry. But I will also now be reading romance. I've been enjoying it. It's been fun recently, and I like that. So I want to keep that up. I also made a goal in terms of my currently reading series. I do want to keep this under 15 currently reading series. This may be a bit of too strong of a goal to accomplish. However, that being said, I'm kind of keeping 15 series. If it's an ongoing series but I'm up to date in it, I'm kind of excluding that from a currently reading series. I mean 15 series that I'm in the middle of reading that I'm actively behind in. I'd like to keep it under that, because then any other series where it's oh, I'm already up to date, when a new book comes out, then I only have the one book to read, you know? That's not as intimidating as Veronica Speedwell, where I've only read 3 of them and the 9th book is coming out this year, and that's terrifying. It's terrifying. That being said though, one of my sub goals in this goal is to get up to date in Veronica Speedwell. Is one of my favorite series that I'm reading right now, and I don't see any reason for me to not try and get as up to date as I can in 2024 with this, since I love the series so much. It's not like it's a chore to read these books. I always love them. I gave the first book 5 stars, and I gave the second and the third book 4 stars. I just got the 4th book for Christmas, so I'm planning on reading that really soon. It actually might be my first read of 2024. Stay tuned for that. I don't know why I'm saying stay tuned. I'm not planning on making a reading vlog specifically for it, but I guess I could. I could make a first read of the year reading vlog an option. And then I also would like to finish the Inheritance games. So I've read the trilogy for a reading vlog back over the summer, I believe. And now, of course, the brothers Hawthorne, this 4th book, that's kind of an extension of the series, a companion book in the series. I don't know exactly what it is, but it does exist, and I do want to read it. And if I read it, then I'll be done with the Inheritance games. I guess at that point it's not a trilogy anymore, because there's 4 books in it. But that series, I'll be done with it. So that's also kind of a top priority on my currently reading series, but that's all kind of within my one goal of keeping my currently reading series under 15. And then my 5th and final goal for 2024 is to read 60 books. I am currently reading my 72nd book for 2023, and I'm hoping to finish that today. I am not guaranteeing it will happen, but if I finish it in the new year, I'm just going to count it as a 2023 read, because I'm thinking at that point I'll be so close to being done. I read most of it in 2023, so I'm reading 71, 72 books this year. However, for the first bit of this year, so for the first few months of 2023, I was actually unemployed, so I was reading a lot more. If I was being really ambitious for 2024, I'd probably say 75 books, but I don't want to do that. I want to make sure it's something that's a bit of a challenge but still achievable. So I'm going for 60, because the goal I gave myself in 2023 was 50, and clearly I surpassed that. So I think 60 books will be a good amount. That's just over 1 book a week, really, right? So very doable, very fantastic. There we go. That's all I have to say for that. Those are my 2024 reading goals. Let me know if you've made yourself any 2024 reading goals down below. Tell me all about them. And then let's just get into what probably most people are here for, my 24 books in 2024. So the first few books I put on this list are all sequels or the next up in a series that I want to read. The first one I have on here is Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is going to be the 3rd book in her Maple Hills series. This is the same one as Icebreaker and Wildfire, and it's going to be releasing in June of 2024, I believe, so I'm really excited for that. Wildfire was one of my favorite books of this past year, and I also really loved Icebreaker. And as I said, I'm entering my romance era, and this will be a new release. We're achieving so many goals by putting this as number 1 on this list. It's just like really fun, really lighthearted. I just have a good time reading them, so I'm really excited for the 3rd book to come out. The 2nd book I have is another romance. It's Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This is the 3rd book in the Dreamland Billionaire trilogy that she wrote. The Fine Print, and then there's Terms and Conditions, and then Final Offer. But this will finish a series. I liked the Fine Print but didn't love it, but I really enjoyed Terms and Conditions, so I'm excited for the final book. I think it's a lot of people's favorite book, and it's like a second chance romance thing, so I haven't really read any second chance romance, so I'm kind of excited to like try out that like romance trope and see what I feel about it. The 3rd on the list, I have Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Shauna McGuire. This is going to be the 9th Wayward Children's book. I think she releases one every January, so this will be coming out pretty soon, and I got myself completely up to date in the Wayward Children series in 2023, so I'll be able to just dive right into the new release once it's available through my library. That's the plan of action, so I'm really excited for that. I've loved that entire series. I've given everything 5 stars, and if I haven't given it 5 stars, I think I gave it 4. I don't think there's any books in that I disliked, so I'm really excited to just keep reading that series. I have no idea how long this series is going to be. I guess I will find out, because it will have to end eventually. Book number 4 on the list is Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. This time last year, I actually read Frederick Bachman books for the first time for a reading vlog and discovered that I love Frederick Bachman. And then I didn't really read any more Frederick Bachman for the entire year, and I don't know why I did that, because that's really dumb of me. Why would I be like, wow, I love this author, and then not read from that author? So Us Against You is the 2nd book in the Beartown trilogy that he's written. I read Beartown and I really loved it, and I'm really been wanting to dive into the next book in the series, and I just haven't. I really don't have a reason. I cannot tell you why I haven't done that. It's just how it is. I then have The Bullet That Missed. This is the 3rd book in the Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Like I said before, I read the Thursday Murder Club, really liked it, and then I read The Man Who Died Twice, liked it even more. And I know that people are just like in love with this series. I am one of them. I'm in love with the series, but I'm 2 books behind in the series. So I've put the 3rd book on my 2024 books list because it's definitely a higher priority read for me. I'm going to get that book, I'm going to read it, and I'm sure I'm going to love it. And then, like I said before, The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes is on this list. That's, like I said, the 4th book in the Inheritance Games series, so I'll read that. I'll be done the series. I've just been waiting for this one to come out in paperback because I have the rest of the series in paperback and I don't want my books to not be matching. So the next kind of set I have are all kind of like more out of my comfort zone kind of books, or genre book I don't tend to lean towards. We have literary fiction on here, and I also have one nonfiction book in this section, so let's dive into it. The first book I have is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I believe that's how you say their name. I apologize if I'm incorrect. This is like a really short book. I'm sure everybody's seen it. I feel like everybody's read it. It's like a series and everybody seems to really like it, or they don't like it, but I want to know where I lie on that spectrum of liking the book. So I think I will want to read it. It's also like a translated fiction, and I think I would like to read some more translated fiction. I feel like you get broader perspectives from reading translated fiction, so I would like, why am I shedding everywhere? Anyway, I'd like to read more. That's basically, that's it. Like, I saw the book and I went, I would like to read that, and then I put it on this list. So then I also put Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I did read Normal People by Sally Rooney back in March of 2023, and I really loved it. And I was thinking when I was making this list that I'd really like to actually read another book by her and see if it's like, it was just I love that one book, or if I just really love her writing and I'll love a lot of her writing and all of her books. I don't know, we'll see. So I've put Conversations with Friends on here as a book that, you know, I want to keep on my radar and I would like to really try and read in 2024 to kind of get a better sense of my feelings about that author. Then for the nonfiction book, I've put Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. This is a memoir that I think it released maybe like a couple years ago now, but it was really popular at the time it came out, and I was thinking, you know, what is a nonfiction book that I might like to actually read, and this was kind of like the first thing that came to my mind, so I thought I'd put it on the list. I didn't want to put too many other nonfictions because, like I said, I really don't read any right now, so I didn't want to put something like completely unattainable on my list here. Number 10 on the list, I have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo last year, as we saw, as it was on my 23 books in 2023, and then I read it. So I literally checked halfway through my video if my phone was still recording, and it was, and then like 2 minutes later it stopped recording, so now I have to go back through half of my list. But I believe I was at Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo in 2023 and I absolutely loved it, so I wanted to read more Taylor Jenkins Reid. I also put Yellowface by R F Kuang. I've heard just really good things about Yellowface and I've seen some people really enjoying it. I'm not planning on reading it until after I've read Babel from my 23 books list, but it is on the 2024 list and I hope I will get to it. I also know that it's R F Kuang's first literary fiction, their first non-fantasy book, I believe. So I'm really excited to see how their writing is in another genre. I then have Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I actually have this book with me because I got it as a gift. I own it. This makes it much easier to read this book from this list. But again, I read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and I absolutely adored that book. I thought Taylor Jenkins Reid writes historical fiction about fake famous people so well, and this is very similar concept, so I'm really hoping I'm gonna just love this book, and I can read it super soon now that I own it. The next few books on the list are some mystery thriller books. So I put Just Another Missing Person by Gillian McAllister on my 24 books in 2024 list. I read Wrong Place, Wrong Time back in October. Absolutely loved it. It was like one of my favorite books of the year. And so I really want to read another book by her to see if it was kind of like a one-off because I just really love the time loop aspect in Wrong Place, Wrong Time, or if I just really love Gillian McAllister's writing and storytelling in general. So I want to read her other book to kind of get an idea on if she's an author that I really love in the future, if it's kind of just like one book that I really loved. I also put on the list Murder in the Family by Kara Hunter, which I also received as a gift recently, so I own it. I think this book is so pretty. I love these colors. This is, I know it's like a cold case whodunit mystery that you'll be able to hopefully solve as the reader, and it's told through like a podcast and transcripts and like so much multimedia. So I'm really excited to read this. I think it should be a super quick read. I think it should be a super fun read, a super intriguing read. I can't wait to like put my little hands on this at the beginning of the year. And then I have The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the first book in her series called The Naturals. It's another YA mystery series, and I felt like she did that so well with the Inheritance Games, and this is actually a series that she wrote before the Inheritance Games, I'm pretty sure. But I've seen this kind of like everywhere in the second half of 2023, so I would love to pick that up, especially once I finish reading The Brothers Hawthorne and finishing the Inheritance Games, pick up another Jennifer Lynn Barnes series. I think these like super fast-paced, fun YA mysteries are great books to read in between other books when I'm kind of switching between genres and just want something like a palate cleanser kind of book, I guess. I then also put on the list 3 fantasy books. I'm kind of like not as obsessed with fantasy right now as I was at the beginning of last year. Like the first half of last year, I was reading a lot of fantasy, and I was just kind of, it's not like I don't like fantasy anymore. I'm just like not like constantly in the mood to read it like I was. I always kind of like ebb and flow between genres with what I read more of. I did put Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. This is obviously the first book in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas. This is just like a series that I said I was gonna read like ages and ages ago, and I just like still haven't started it. I've read all of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Wow, I really just like blanked on that for a second. But I've read all of the Court of Thorns and Roses books. I have not read any of the Crescent City books, but I do want to read Throne of Glass. so this is on the list, but only the first book. I've learned my lesson from my 23 books in 2023 list. I'm only putting the first book of series on here. There's no full series on the 24 books in 2024 list. I'm trying to make this more achievable. I also put Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson on this list. This is like the only mystery project book by Brandon Sanderson last year that I even know the title of, and I saw so much love for it. I saw so much like excitement for it. I saw so many people just being obsessed with it that I want to read it. I want to know. It's been compared to like The Princess Bride, which I also have not read or seen the movie for, so I don't know what that means exactly, but people have been loving it, and I have loved Brandon Sanderson books before, so I'm hoping I will love this Brandon Sanderson, oh no. So I'm hoping I'll love this Brandon Sanderson book as well. And then the last fantasy I put on this list, number 18 of 24, is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book in the Alex Stern series. I believe this originally was supposed to be a longer series, but is now only going to be a trilogy. So there's Ninth House, and then there's Hellbent. I have no idea what the third book will be or is called. I don't even know if it has a release date or a title yet, honestly. I'm really behind on knowing that information. But I do want to read Ninth House. I want to kind of read some Leigh Bardugo that is like adult and not YA, and is not in the Grishaverse. I think that'll be fun. I think that'll be exciting. I've heard good things about Ninth House. I've heard not as amazing things about Hellbent, but I've also heard good things about Hellbent, so it doesn't put me off the entire series, you know? And then the last 6 books I put on this list are all romance books. The first one is Flawless, this by Elsie Silver. This is the first book in the Chestnut Springs series. I've seen everybody and their dog obsessed with Chestnut Springs and Elsie Silver, so I need to read it to know what it's about. I need to be in on the know. And then I've put Twisted Love by R F Kuang. Again, another like super well-known romance series that I kind of just want to like read a book of, see if it's for me, kind of decide if I'm like in for the hype or against the hype, you know, just get my idea on that. I also put Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. This is the first in a series because I think the second book recently came out. Vancouver Storm, I believe is the series called. And this is on here purely because of Ellen. Ellen read this book and absolutely loved this book, so now I want to read this book and absolutely love this book. That's literally it. That's the only reason it's on here. Then I have Beach Read by Emily Henry, which I also received as a gift recently, so this is in my possession. But I don't think I'm going to be reading this anytime soon since it's like the middle of winter in Canada and this is called Beach Read. The vibes just don't feel correct. Dude, you're kind of interrupting. Okay, thanks. I feel like Emily Henry is probably like one of the most well-known romance authors right now, even outside of like the booktube book talk kind of sphere. I feel like it's a well-known name with people really liking her books, so I really wanted to read at least one of her books in 2024 to kind of see if maybe I would also love Emily Henry books. I also put Every Summer After by Carly Fortune on this list. I've seen this book around as well, and then I am pretty sure Carly Fortune is a Canadian author, so I was like, ooh, I'm a Canadian who like supports fellow Canadians, so I will try and read this Canadian author and hopefully I will love this Canadian author and then I can read more of her books. So that's why that's on here, because, you know, romance era Canadian authors, we love to see it. And then the last book I put on this list, I don't know if this really deserves the last spot because I'm kind of unsure about it, but it's Mile High by Liz Tomford. This is the first book in the Windy City series, and honestly, I haven't heard amazing things about this book, but I have heard really good things about the rest of the series, so I'm like, maybe I'll like the first book and then I can continue on in the series, because I think you don't have to read the first book, but it's helpful if you read the first book, and I just don't think I have it in me to start a series on book 2. I think I'm gonna need to read the first book. It's just not like me. So that's all of the books on my 24 books in 2024 list. I have a lot of mystery thrillers and I have a lot of romance that I'm hoping to read in 2024. I'm kind of going away from fantasy, but that's okay. There we go. That's kind of like it for the video today. I say like that's it as if I haven't been talking like for ages and I've just been speed running through things, but this is kind of the mood I'm in today. So if you liked the video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Happen like me, consider subscribing. I'd be happy to have you. Let me know down below your thoughts on anything, some 2024 goals you have, maybe some books you want to read in 2024. Did you have books that you were going to read in 2023 that you read? Did you not read them? Let me know. All of those things. Any comments? If you have any nonfiction recommendations, let me know that as well. And with that, I will see you in the next one. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Bye-bye.